Welcome to the Rough Characters podcast. I am your host, Philip Overby.
And I'm John Palladino.
And today we're back with some Star Wars information for you. Well, not information, but in the previous episode, we had talked about the core nine movies, or the Skywalker saga, as it's now known. And we gave a lot of hot takes about that. Some were hotter than others. But today we're going to be talking about other Star Wars media. So this is things that are not directly related to the main series. We're going to be talking about the movies, Rogue One and Solo, and the TV shows that have been on Disney Plus, as well as some of the animated shows and some of the games that we have played throughout the year. And at the end of the episode, we're going to do a little fun spitballing activity where John and I will create our own Star Wars idea for a movie or TV show, and you can all laugh at it. So, first, let's talk about the movies. So, first of all, Rogue One, I actually really, really liked, and it's probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies out of all of them, I think.
Yeah, actually, the if we were to rate all the movies together, Rogue One is actually my second favorite movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So we both kind of align in that case, whereas we didn't align on some other
it's
stuff
a
before.
it's a miracle.
Um, I remember watching it and thinking, man, I'm pretty excited about, before I wasn't like super excited about the spinoff movies. I was kind of like cautiously optimistic kind of. But after I saw that, I was like, oh wow, that's I'm pretty excited about what other stuff they're gonna do. Like even though Rogue One basically, tells you stuff that you already know happened in a way, it lets you see the characters and how they pulled it off and all that kind of stuff. So um, yeah, I really liked the characters, and I really liked the different action scenes, and yeah, overall, just a good sci-fi movie, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent movie. I thought it had great characters. I saw that first movie, Rogue One, the first side movie, I guess, that wasn't part of the saga, and I was like, oh man, I really hope they start expanding into like all this other cool shit. And they really haven't branched off at all, really. It's kind of annoying, you know. You have Solo, which I don't consider branching off because it's another character from the saga. They have the Mandalorian, which is maybe their other like big kind of break off, but like, is it? There's so many like characters from the show or from the trilogy now, and there's like reference. It's trying to connect to everything else, and I'm like, stop it. I love
Yeah,
the Mandalorian, but like, can we please just have something that's not connected? Like, it's amazing to me. It's incredible, actually, how wide this world, this created universe, and the amount of years that's actually in the lore, in the histories, that's like established from like its canon
yeah.
that they don't use is baffling to me. It's we gotta make sure it connects to the original like nine movies. Why? I don't get it. I
It's the
think that's why I like Rogue One so much, is that like even though there is a little bit of that, and it still it is maybe the most like not connected almost.
well, I think it's more of like probably their. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Their reasoning, I would assume, would be most people who aren't hardcore Star Wars fans don't know any of that other stuff. So that what they're doing is oh, Chewbacca, oh, Han Solo, oh, Luke Skywalker. Uh,
Yeah,
let's thread that in somehow, and it's kind of fan service, but it's kind of also pushing away people that want to see more. They don't want to just see the same characters over and over again. And I think Mandalorian has done that best as far as I've seen so far. It has kind of done its own thing with just like a few cameos of like the, oh, I know that guy kind of stuff. Um, but I don't know. I haven't seen all the TV shows, so maybe you have more insight on, Andor or one of the other shows has pushed away from that more or not.
Yeah, so I guess when we get to those shows, I can kind of briefly say how much it does or doesn't relate as we go, because I've seen all of them, but and I won't spoil anything for anyone either on any of the shows because you haven't seen some of them, and if someone's listening and they have seen everything except for Andor or something, I'm not going to spoil any of it, but I can give you a brief idea.
Well, Solo, I think I told you this off the podcast. I don't even remember what happened happened in that movie. I
All right.
honestly don't.
So this is a hot take. All right. Solo was the movie that came out the year after The Last Jedi came out. And we already talked about The Last Jedi and how much you apparently like it, and I hate that movie. Uh, for the majority of the established fan base, not like new fans, I think most people really hated it, which is and the way they kind of boycotted it was not going to Solo. For some reason, the company said it was Star Wars fatigue. But let me tell you, as a Star Wars fan, you could put out 4 times the amount of content. You could Marvelize the shit out of it, and I'd be there for every single thing. The problem is, it's got to be good. And The Last Jedi was so bad that so many people were just pissed. I was pissed too, but I have that. I just had too much hope, so I went and saw it, and I have maybe I might be the only person that says this, but I thought it was really good. I really liked Solo. So many people hated it that actually saw it, and I went into it expecting to hate it because I was like, a different actor as Han Solo. This is gonna be trash. But and you said you don't remember any of it, but
I
I,
remember I didn't hate it. I just don't remember anything. I wasn't like, God, that movie fucking sucked. It was just, I
yeah.
just don't
So
remember anything.
the Han Solo story I thought was pretty good. I hated. I absolutely hated everything to do with Lando. It's just Donald Glover as Lando did not work for me, and that whole story just felt weird. But then I think my favorite part about that movie was all the stuff that like was unique to that movie, and I can't remember her name, but she played Dany in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
Emilia Clarke, is that her name?
yeah, Amelia Clark. Yeah.
Um, I believe she plays the girl in that movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot she was in that.
Anyway,
I
yeah,
actually forgot she was in
that
that.
character was fantastic, and the whole story with that character was fantastic. And again, without spoiling anything, there was a huge reveal at the almost at the end of the movie that was like teased so much stuff, and I was so excited because originally they planned on a sequel for that movie, I do believe,
Yeah,
and of course it didn't do well, so we
they
didn't
were.
get it.
Were they going to do Solo 2 or they were going to do a Lando movie?
But actually, back then I heard they were going to do a Solo 2 and a Lando movie. Actually, I heard
Oh,
it was going to be a Lando TV show.
oh, okay.
Um, but then with all the backlash that happened, they kind of scaled back a lot of their plans. And actually, after Solo came out, they canceled plans for a lot of movies. I think originally Obi-Wan was going to be a movie, but that changed into a show.
Mm.
And I heard rumors online, so this, take that with a grain of salt, that they were maybe going to do a Yoda movie as well.
Well, yeah, I really like Donald Glover and some of his other stuff. I mean, he's mostly known as comedic actor, so I think him doing kind of a more serious role maybe didn't click with some people. But I don't know, like doing a Lando movie, like there's just certain characters like I could see working better as a TV show. Like a Lando TV show, I think would be cool if they pulled it off with like Cloud City and everything.
Oh my
Uh,
god, going to Cloud City for a show, I think that'd be awesome. I'm not like the biggest Lando, like I liked Lando when Billy D. Williams played him.
yeah,
I don't think I could stomach a whole show with Donald Glover playing him. Donald Glover, like you said, is funny, so he has that aspect that Lando has. But then Lando also has this like sort of charm, this like scoundrel type charm. And I didn't think that Donald Glover got that like vibe down at all. Like I don't know how else to explain
yeah.
it.
I can't
I don't know.
remember like how I felt about the actors, but just the plot or whatever. I don't I honestly can't remember anything. But I mean, it's not. It doesn't mean I hated the movie. It just it's one of those movies I'd have to rewatch uh, to get something out of it because I just for whatever reason it didn't leave an impression on me or good or bad, I guess. Uh,
Yeah, I think that I recently rewatched it, which is why I have a pretty good memory of it because I think I watched it the beginning of last year.
hmm.
I don't know. So I think it was like a year ago or so that I watched it and because my brother hadn't seen it, I think, when he was visiting here, so he wanted to watch it. And yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good, and then I rewatched it and I still thought it was good, actually. I thought it was the best movie Disney has put out aside from Rogue One.
Well, let's move on to the TV shows now. I think I think we've talked about the Mandalorian through various ways since we've been recording this podcast. I don't know if we need to rehash, but I mean, I think both of us would say it's one of our favorite Star Wars shows, if not favorite. It's my favorite so far. I don't know about you.
Your favorite what show?
Yeah,
Okay, is it your favorite piece of Star Wars media?
it's my favorite recent piece of Star Wars media. And yeah, in fact, it might be my favorite piece of Star Wars media if I really think about it, because I just like that. I always like the bounty hunter vibe. Even in my own writing, I like characters that are bounty hunters or assassins. I like that kind of character, and I like that the Mandalorian is kind of he has a code or whatever. He's a bounty hunter, but he has this whole code. Um, so yeah, I like the episodic feel of it, and that it was each was each episode was kind of self-contained, but like had a like thread of the main story going through it.
Okay, that's actually interesting that you said that. I kind of want to explore that real quick. So that you like that about the show.
Yeah.
That's interesting because that's like one of my biggest critiques about the show. As well, season one, season two didn't really have that so much, but I really didn't like that part of season one where it was like every episode was kind of a self-contained story until you got to like the second half of the show, and then it kind of ran into like one episode after another, kind of like went back to back. But the first like 4 or 5 episodes of that show was like it really felt like an anthology, and I fucking hated that. It was all good. It was all interesting. But that really frustrated me. But I'm not really a big anthology person. I really liked Black Mirror, and I think that's the only anthology I've actually liked of like TV shows,
Well,
episodes, you know.
well, I think I'm more of a short story person and more of a episodic person than you are. I think
True.
you like bigger stories with, you know, everything's kind of connected. Whereas one of my favorite short story collections is The Last Wish, which is the Witcher,
Right.
one of the
Yeah, I've
first
heard of that.
Witcher series. And it's all self-contained stories with The Witcher. And that's why I love that, because it was like, okay, you got to see The Witcher do these different things, but I didn't have to invest in like following some major storyline. So, in fact, I just recently bought Joe Abercrombie's short story collection. So I'm hoping to. I know
Oh,
this is.
sharp ends.
I know this is off the
That.
Star Wars thing, but just I'm more of a. I think I'm more of a episodic person. So
Right.
I really like to be able to just watch something and enjoy it, like, almost like a snack. Oh, that was a fun episode. And then
Right.
if I stop watching it, I don't feel like, oh, I got to see what happens next. It's like, oh, that was fun. And then
Right.
I could just stop watching it. And that's just something, I guess, as I've gotten older, I just enjoy more. Just the ability to watch something without having to continue it necessarily. Um, and that's why I like smaller media, I guess, like TV. That's why I've just gotten more into, um, you know, anthologies or, episodic TV over the years. Um,
Right.
and that's what I liked about The Mandalorian was that aspect, that it was, you were seeing the character develop, but you didn't necessarily have to, like, oh, what's he gonna do? It's like,
Right. I I think I agree with you. See, it's really hard for me to agree that The Mandalorian is my favorite piece of media. I think I think it might be second place. I can't it doesn't usurp Star Wars Episode 3 for me. I know that's a hot take. I really like that movie. I like the mature vibe of that movie. And if The Mandalorian was like a mature show, no chance does anything even come close to that, right? Like that Mandalorian would easily be my favorite piece of media ever. Uh, but it does have some elements to it that I'm like, it's not as good for me because it just doesn't feel as adult as I would like it to. It's still really good though, and I really enjoy the moving back and forth to different like scenery and different planets and stuff. I think another big critique I have is that a lot of the episodes are ridiculously short, like 23 minutes or something dumb. And
again,
it's like, are you serious?
again, I like that. It's
It's
just
not enough. There's like some episodes that are like 23 minutes, and like 15 minutes
perfect,
of that was like a battle, and then like they
perfect,
have no
perfect.
like character development or discussion or anything, and you're like, is it really? That's it? Really? There's so much room here. I mean, these episodes should easily be 45 minutes long. No contest. It's
Uh,
crazy to me that they aren't, especially with how well the show's been doing. But
I feel like The Mandalorian can have shorter episodes because I feel like it's Star Wars take on the Western, you know.
there's
Uh,
so much that they haven't actually like explored in that show that they could have explored that they didn't, and now they can't. And that like,
I'm kind of
why?
I'm kind of glad. Sometimes I'm glad they don't explore something. It's like, oh, I want to. I mean, I know this is again philosophical difference where you like to see more and more and more of something. Where fine just seeing I'm fine just seeing what they give me, and oh, that's good. That's all I need to see.
Well,
Like they go,
one of us is right and one of us is wrong. So
well, like like when they go to that planet, right? With the kid and like, or not the kid.
I'm
What
trying to
what
think about what you're talking about.
what they're gonna leave Baby Yoda there, right? He's because he made friends with the local people or
Oh yeah,
something.
that was like episode 2 or 3 of the first season where yeah, I remember like where the native like colony is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe like you want to see, oh, I want to see more what
Right.
those native people are doing. I don't give a shit. I want them to go to the next place. I'm like, okay.
All right. All right. All right. To be fair, in that circumstance, you might be right a little bit.
Okay.
Um, Although I will say, I would have liked to spend more time there just merely because I thought the visuals were amazing in that episode. When they did some of like the top-down view of like the village and stuff, it was just like, whoa, this place is so cool. Uh, so I would have liked to see a little bit more of it, just because I thought it looked really cool. But that's, I guess, not that relevant.
Okay, well, I think we've
Yeah, we've
both.
talked about the Mandalorian on and off throughout so
Yeah.
many things, so we can move on to well, let's go in order of the main show releases. So the Book of Boba Fett, which you haven't seen at all, right?
No, I don't know if I ever will. I know you've told me I need to watch season to prepare for season 3 of Mandalorian, but
No,
uh
you actually won't understand the beginning of the Mandalorian season 3 if you don't watch the Book of Boba Fett. Like, that is a fact.
I
You
mean,
will be like, wait, how did this happen?
can I just read I just
You can
read
read a
online?
summary. I don't know why you wouldn't watch it though. If you're going to watch the Mandalorian, why would you not want the whole story?
I just the thing I don't like that it's like, oh, in order to watch the Mandalorian I have to watch this other fucking show. I don't want to watch the other fucking show. I want to watch the Mandalorian. I hate when shows do that. Like, don't mix up the shows. Like,
I get that.
let me watch the Mandalorian. I don't want to watch Book of Boba Fett. I don't care about
The thing is, you should
Boba
want to watch
Fett.
the Book of Fett,
I,
Boba Fett, but they made it not good, so it's not worth watching. Like,
that's the problem. It's like, hey, watch this thing that's not as good as the Mandalorian, so you understand the
okay,
Mandalorian.
okay,
It's like,
okay.
I don't want to.
Let me talk about why the Book of Boba Fett is both amazing and awful.
Okay.
Okay, so the first episode of the book, and again, I'm going to say this without spoilers or like incredibly minor spoilers. Nothing that anyone listening, yourself included, has to worry about. I'm not going to ruin anything important.
All right.
So the Book of Boba Fett starts out right. You saw the again, without spoiling what it is, but you saw the end credit scene of The Mandalorian season 2, right?
Uh, I don't know.
You saw Mandalorian season 2, right?
No, I haven't. I think I've only seen season 1. I
You've
think.
only seen season 1 of The
Wait,
Mandalorian?
wait, wait,
Jesus
wait, wait,
fucking Christ.
wait. Yeah, I saw season 2. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Boba Fett was in season 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought we were talking about season another show. Sorry. See, this is
Oh,
why I don't like it. It's all mixed up.
right. Okay. I got you. So it starts out like basically right where season 2 leaves off with the after credits like scene.
Hmm.
Um and so you have Boba Fett and he's doing his thing, and that's like cool, I guess, except for two things. First of all, the show is split in half. So you have like half is in the present and then half is like flashbacks. And the present part, in my opinion, is like underutilized.
Hmm.
They focus too much on the flashbacks. And when you are in the present part, they're not doing enough interesting stuff, which is crazy because they have so many amazing like things that they could be doing because they introduce a bunch of like new characters and some wild cool things and they just don't use them as much as they should. The flashbacks are terrible. It's showing you how he lived from after Return of the Jedi. And by God, did they drag that shit out. All of episode 2 is one flashback. They never go to the present. And I know that's minor spoiler, but not really. It's so boring. I was so pissed. And the flashbacks, they don't add a damn thing to any of it. It literally is pointless. And then you have Boba Fett in the present, and he's like not a ruthless bounty hunter, and it makes no sense. So you have this like pussy bounty hunter that's being pushed around by everybody because he's not willing to actually do what Boba Fett would do, right? Like, it's weird. And so he's trying to be a leader that's nice, and it's just like
Yeah.
does not fit the character at all. And so that part is awful. But like I said, there's some amazing parts because they introduced some amazing, cool characters and stuff that I wish they just used more. So that's like the first. I think the Book of Boba Fett is 6 episodes. I might be wrong. Anyway, the first like 4, I want to say, episodes are kind of like that. And
Yeah.
then episode 5. Now, this is a minor spoiler to anyone who doesn't want any small details ruined, but episode 5 has nothing to do with the Book of Boba Fett. I think it's episode 5. I have
You're
my
just
numbers.
you're making me hate this more and more.
Episode 5
The more
is
you
a
describe
Mandalorian episode.
it.
It is all about the Mandalorian.
I hate this,
It's amazing. The episode is spectacular.
but I hate
What
this.
the hell is it doing in the Book of Boba Fett? I don't know. Boba Fett doesn't know. No one knows. And then I think the finale has kind of the merging storyline stuff happen. But like it's just doesn't fit that great. It's weird how they do that. So you have like this big episode and a half, maybe it's 2 episodes. I don't really know. To have a lot of Mandalorian in it, and it's the best part of the show, which is hilarious because he's not the title character. It's really funny how that works. Uh, but like, there's some like major story decisions that happen in that show that if you don't watch that show, you are going to be wildly confused when the season 3 starts because
I'll
I
just
mean it's crazy.
I'll just be confused.
I mean, you can ask me about it, but I'm telling you, maybe don't watch the Book of Boba Fett if you're not interested, but you should at least watch the one episode that's concentrated on the Mandalorian because you won't be confused. It has nothing to do with the Book of Boba Fett, and it's really it'll feel like the Mandalorian season 2.5. It'll just be like an episode that you watch and you'll be like, oh, that's really cool, and then you'll get into the Mandalorian season 3. So seriously, I would recommend watching the 2 episodes he's in.
Hmm.
But if you do that, why not just watch the other 4 episodes? Because it's only a 6 episode show, I think. It's really short. But yeah, definitely I would say watch at least that episode.
Can I explain why I don't want to watch Book of Boba Fett ever? And it's not because I heard bad things about it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear why.
It's because it's the sausage thing. Maybe I've mentioned before, like,
I'm not sure.
you eat sausage, right?
Okay.
Do you want to see how it's made? Do you want to
Fair.
see
Sausage is pretty gross.
you want to
But
see the whole process?
but you're not seeing how it's made. This is just another sausage.
But what I'm getting at is I don't like how Boba Fett was a cool background character in the original trilogy, and he somehow became this like he became like a meme before memes even existed. He just became like a mysterious character that people thought looked cool, and he said some cool lines.
Okay, you're not wrong.
And
But
and then he suddenly he's a clone, and he's the son of somebody in the prequel, and it's just like it ruined whatever mystique or cool image I had of Boba Fett when I was a kid. Like all that stuff, and like him not wearing the mask and stuff, like is he I just don't
okay.
like any of that. Like the
So
Mandalorian is cool because he's serious. He wears the mask. He never takes it off.
I will agree and disagree with you because you're wrong because
I'm not wrong.
you are wrong because
You can disagree with me, but I'm not wrong.
the Mandalorian is cool because he never takes his helmet off, but then he starts taking his helmet off. Does that and really the Mandalorian is just a copy of the old Boba Fett.
But he does it for a
really know.
reason. When he
I
takes it off, he does it
get
for a
that. I get that, but all I'm saying is that I don't think that changes enough. I don't know. My see, here's the thing. I loved the prequel stuff diving into Boba Fett. I thought that stuff was actually really interesting. I loved the Boba Fett that we got in The Mandalorian season 2.
That was
I
okay.
fucking hated what they did in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, it was ridiculous. And I could rant a long time about why it was ridiculous. And so, if that's what you're worried about, yeah, I can see why you don't want to watch it. But the Boba Fett's going to be in The Mandalorian season 3, so like,
Yeah,
they, you
I don't,
know,
I don't care if he's in another show.
at least I'm guessing he's going to be in season 3.
Like if he's in another show, then whatever. He's not the main character. I just don't see the point. It was like
Okay, but let me
people.
pitch something to you real quick.
Okay,
The Book of Boba Fett, the show that it should have been, is a ruthless bounty hunter trying to reclaim his basically where he came from, I guess, uh as a bounty hunter and trying to rule. How does that not sound like an amazing show to you? Because the premise is, in my opinion, fantastic. It reminds me of the old show that was pitched when I was like a kid, which was George Lucas wanted to do Star Wars. What was it? Underworld, I think it was called. It was the first live action idea for like a Star Wars show. It's supposed to be like a mature, gritty Star Wars show that focused on like the underworld and the criminals and stuff. It sounded amazing, and I really thought that's what this was going to be. It is not that, but if it was that, could you really not watch it? Like that sounds like an amazing premise. That's why I was so excited when they announced the show, and it was anything but that.
well, yeah, I don't know. I think the prequels just ruined that whole character for me. I don't care about Django Fett or
What? Jango Fett was
fucking
great.
Billy Fett or Steve Fett or any of these other people. It's just Boba Fett looked cool. That was it. He's a
Boba
cool.
Fett did look
He
cool,
looked
but
cool and he said cool one-liners. That's the character.
that's
And
true.
now it's this whole thing, and it's just like sometimes characters need to have mystique. They just need to be mysterious and be cool, and that's it. We don't need to know their father was a clone and he got his head cut off, and oh, that now I want revenge. I don't
Well,
need to know all
I
that.
think the reason they went so far into him was because they didn't actually have much of an explanation for about like his cool armor, and then they like, I don't know. That's
Can it just be cool armor? He just has cool armor.
apparently not because
Have you ever read a book and thought, oh, that character has a cool sword, and then you want to hear the whole background about the sword?
No, I can't. I can't say I have. I'm just speculating here. I think that he took off into such like fandom that like they decided we need to put him in. But
I think
yeah,
that
I mean, you're right.
I think what it was is everybody thought Boba Fett looked cool, and they wanted to know more about him because he looked cool and he said cool stuff. So, oh, I wonder what Boba Fett's doing like when he's not working for the Empire. He must do all these cool adventures. And then when you actually find out what he did, you're
They didn't
like,
show what he did.
I know, but when you find out like he's the child of a clone and all this kind of stuff, it's like, well, he's not cool anymore because now he's like just some clone or something. Like the whole clone thing, I just don't like in general. Um, Boba Fett's a clone, or like everyone's a clone of Jango Fett. I never liked that plot point. I know it's called the Clone Wars, but just I don't know. I just
That's
never got
interesting.
into that.
I always found that to be kind of interesting myself. But
I mean, if it was any other person, maybe, but
what, you don't like the actor or something?
no. Again, it's the whole we have to connect everything, right? We were just talking
Oh,
about
so
this
you
before.
hate that it's like Jango Fett who's
Yeah,
connected to Boba Fett. Okay. Well,
I
I
wish it was just a
I can
different
see that.
thing.
Just
Yeah,
some random person,
yeah.
Bill Jackoff. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Jackoff. He's the original clone. But yeah, this whole like everyone's connected to everyone, and like Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker's connected to this guy, Boba Fett's connected to this guy, and it's like, can't they just be their own? It's a huge universe,
I
but
know
it
it's
seems like a
ridiculous how
very
many
small universe.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I personally don't have a problem with that particular instance. I actually thought it was interesting. But there's about a dozen other instances where I could say the same thing. So I'm not going to like argue you against that. I think it's a perfectly valid remark. I disagree with it personally, but there's so many stupid instances like that, which makes no sense. Like you said, the world is enormous. The fact that all these people are related to each other makes actually zero sense.
It's just a plot device that writers use all the time. I mean, I'm sure even I've used it, or you've used it, where it's like, oh, so and so is so and so's brother or something, and it's
It
like,
is,
oh,
I mean, it to be fair, it it's helpful for things like that. My only debate, my only counterpoint would be like fair point, but the book I'm writing or the series I'm writing takes place in one world.
yeah, yeah. That's
Not not galaxies.
yeah,
That's
that's the
that's the
key.
only, yeah.
I mean, the only way you could kind of say, well, you know, hyperdrive exists and everybody can jump to another planet in a matter of seconds or whatever. I guess you could say that, like, okay, Han Solo jumped to here and he had a kid with Leia, and then Leia's kid jumped over here or
I
whatever.
guess, but families do tend to stick together or near each other. And also, even if that's the case, it's very unlikely that the most important person on this planet is Philip Overby, and then the most important person on this planet is Jessica Overby, and then the most important person on the other planet is Rachel Overby, right? Like
Yeah.
that's so unlikely, and yet it happens frequently in the Star Wars universe, which it's annoying. I think it's just an attempt to like make the reader immediately like care about a character, or reader or watcher, or whatever we're talking about here. We were talking about writing, and that's why I said reader, but so I think it's just an attempt to be like, look, you actually know and associate with this person's like family.
Well,
Then it does make it feel like super small and confined.
going back to the original trilogy just quickly, the I think what happened was the Luke, I am your father thing was so cool and so awesome when it happened that now every time it's got to be that, right?
It
It's
was a
like,
really cool reveal then, but like, how many times do we need to do this reveal?
that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Watch,
oh,
you see in the Mandalorian, Boba
Boba
Fett's gonna
Fett.
say to the Mandalorian, I am your father.
Yeah. If that happens, I'm gonna fucking smash my TV.
Right. I mean, to be fair, at that point, I think I'd be out. It's like too ridiculous.
The man,
Speaking,
he says, the Mandalorian. I'm your father.
well, I don't know if people actually know his real name. Like, I don't think Boba Fett knows that his
I know,
name
but
is
that would be funny if
Ryan.
that
That would be so funny.
the Mandalorian. I'm your father.
Um, speaking of ridiculous, though, do you want to move on to the Obi-Wan Kenobi show?
Yeah, actually, I don't have much to talk about here. This is the same issue I have with the Boba Fett thing. Like, Obi-Wan's a bigger character, but again, I don't care how he ended up on Tatooine. I don't care. I mean, the fact that he's being hunted by like Imperial um Jedi hunters is kind of cool, but all the people that are the Jedi hunters are like kind of lame. Like, none of them are that cool. So it was like a cool. You could have made these cool Inquisitor characters, but like they all look like the one guy looks really dumb. I can't remember the character's name, but just he looks like
The
a
one with the hat?
yeah. He just
Oh my God, I know.
just the character design is not cool.
No,
Um,
it's the Asian guy, right?
Yeah,
It looks ridiculous.
just the character design and the like outfit just doesn't look cool. And like I like the one Inquisitor that's kind of like she's like the
Are you talking about the main girl, the black girl, Riva? I think her name is.
yeah, I kind of like her more than I think
That's
other people
interesting. I
did.
couldn't stand her.
And
Uh,
but again, I only watched the beginning, so
Fair. Okay, fair. I think that,
I didn't see how she developed, but I did.
yeah, I think that you'd agree with me if you finish the show,
Okay,
honestly.
well,
The Grand Inquisitor was awesome though.
I think they're all kind of cringy. Like I just felt the whole Obi-Wan show was cringe,
Yes,
if I could
there
say
was there was a lot of
that word.
problems with that show, and a lot of it was that it was cringy. It was just weird. I have to say though, my favorite parts about the show were whenever they showed the wow, I mean, just had the worst Star Wars brain fart ever. But the other planet where Jesus.
Alderaan.
Uh yes, Alderaan. Why couldn't I think of Alderaan? It's crazy. Um Loved it. I want a show set there. It looked so cool. I was like,
Alderaan, the next
this
show.
is amazing. It was so cool. I think it'd be sweet. Can you like do you disagree? I thought it looked so cool.
I honestly don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. I just thought it looked amazing. And also, I think the only good part about the Obi-Wan show was the flashbacks. There was a couple and they were A plus TV in my opinion. They were so amazing. But then so much of that show was so bad. Like the Inquisitors, I don't want to spoil anything, but like I just didn't like the resolution slash non-resolution with some of that stuff.
I mean, is it a spoiler to say Darth Vader shows up?
I don't think so because when Kathleen Kennedy announced the show, she said that there he was going to be in it. Uh,
Like when Darth Vader shows up, I thought that was kind of cool because it felt like cool Darth Vader again.
yes,
Like scary Darth Vader. That's the Darth Vader I like. The one that like
yes,
the one that's at the end of Rogue One, right? Isn't he at the end of Rogue One also?
yes.
Where
That's a
the
spoiler, but yeah.
well, sorry. I mean, I'm assuming people have seen Rogue One by now. You know,
I would hope so. I think that mostly the spoilers are the show stuff that I'm trying to avoid
yeah, yeah,
because some of these shows are kind of recent. I think Obi-Wan was like a year ago, so it's probably not like,
yeah,
if you're watching the Star Wars stuff, you're not worried about it.
yeah.
But yeah, you
Like Andor, maybe don't spoil stuff because that's really.
yeah, I won't spoil anything that people don't already know about Andor.
But
Um,
you know,
but
Darth Vader shows up on Obi-Wan. I'm assuming that's whatever. But
yeah,
um that was cool because it felt scary. Like a horror movie almost. Like Darth Vader has showed up. Oh shit.
yeah,
And Obi-Wan's not like, "Hey, I want to fight Darth Vader." He looks scared. Like he doesn't want to fight him. Um so that like some of it I liked. I didn't like it enough to like finish watching it. I was just kind of like, I like this okay. The Inquisitors were too goofy for me. And that's just the overall problem with like Star Wars character design sometimes. It's just they look goofy. They don't look scary or menacing. Like the Inquisitors to me should have been faceless, you know,
I think
uh
the problem is that they're already established on how they look because of the animated show.
see again, I hate I hate this kind of stuff.
I know. All the Inquisitors were established characters because they were introduced in the animated shows.
No,
Yep.
don't just stop doing it. Like,
Actually,
don't
the
establish.
only the only new character of the Inquisitors was Riva, the black girl. I think she was original for the show, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe her character was announced. I no, I think that you never saw that numbered Inquisitor, and so that was part of the backlash when the show was announced. Was because
Well,
I think
Riva,
people were upset she was black. I might be wrong, but I don't remember why exactly there was backlash, but I thought that was, stupid. But
well, that's
I
stupid.
did
That's
the
the
character
stupid.
was shit, but
That's the
yeah.
stupid thing about Star Wars in general is like when they cast stuff, people freak out about, there's not enough white people in the show. It's like, shut up. Like, let them have different things. It's a universe. You think there's only white people in the universe? There's black, Asian, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh
I don't have a problem with
aliens.
diversity.
There's
Yeah,
fucking aliens.
I think it makes sense to be very diverse in those shows and movies and just
Anyway,
that universe in general. But
anytime that's a backlash, I'm just like, whatever, shut up. But the Riva character, like at the beginning, gave me Kylo Ren vibes almost. Like she was kind of a loose cannon. Uh so
yeah,
I was optimistic about her, but from what you say, it's not good. So
I don't like it. Um,
I might like it because sometimes you like stuff I don't like.
I truly don't think you would like the direction it went. I could spoil it for you off air if you wanted. I could tell you a lot of things about it. I do think that there's a couple like flashbacks and more Darth Vader that you haven't seen that is worth watching the rest of the show for. But I will again without spoilers, I gotta say the finale of that show was good in many ways, but there was this one part. I'll say vague things so no one can figure this out. But there's a character who's on one planet, and then there's another character who's on the same planet, and then they leave the planet and they're going their different ways. Okay, so one goes to planet number 2, and the other one goes to planet number 3. This is happening at the same time. Character number 2 starts to fight somebody. Character number 3, or I'm sorry, character number 1 starts to fight someone. Character number 2 starts to fight someone. So they're on planet 2 and 3, right? So character number 2 finishes said fight. Oh my god, something's happening. I gotta go save this person. Somehow, during the fight, is able to fly across the galaxy, get to the next planet, land, run to the other fight and intervene. And you're like, what? Now, um, during the time I watched the episode, I didn't quite notice that. I saw like a video analysis of the show slash episode where they kind of laid it out. And I was like, see, that's why that didn't feel right. Because the timeline literally does not make sense. And I kind of had this feeling about it, but I didn't know. And then I was like, oh, okay. That's just makes it so much dumber when you know that. And there's just a lot of really stupid things to that show, unfortunately.
Well, none of that made any sense, but I guess that's I don't need to
Uh,
watch the rest of it probably. Um
if you
also
were to watch it, you should at least watch one part of the last episode, which is really cool. But
also again, I don't want to see Princess Leia as a little girl. Sorry. The girl that played her was fine, but it's just like I don't want to see all this.
okay, that's interesting that you said that because that might have been my favorite part of the show. I really liked that part. The rest of the show I mostly hated. The thing I didn't like about the Princess Leia shit was like you have like grown men chasing her. She's like somehow avoiding them. What? So, like,
Well, it
that was goofy.
again, the Princess Leia stuff, it takes like a few moments in the original trilogy where she kind of like pulls out a gun and shoots it, and like you're like, oh shit, like she can do like soldier stuff. And then like they developed Princess Leia as like this badass that she really didn't come off as a badass in the original trilogy. She just came off as somebody that like if she had to do something, she would do it, like to survive.
Right.
I never felt like she's like should be somebody that's like outrunning. I mean, I know she did some like missions and Return of the Jedi and stuff, but like I think from the original movie, I don't think there was any intention of her being like this
No, and that's
super
you're right.
badass general, whatever. I think she was just like a princess that was like, "Oh shit, I got to fight," and like picked up the gun and started shooting. That's how I perceived it anyway.
Yeah, I think that they did really Mary Sue the child part of her in this show. Like there's one part where they're like trying to escape, but they can't because the door is shut and no one can get to the panel. No one, don't ask me because it's too small to get in there. So she's like, I'll go in. And so you have this like 10-year-old kid who is a princess and clearly, clearly does not have the expertise that one would need to fix this. Goes in and, you know, moves one wire around and repairs this thing. It's ridiculous. And I didn't like that, but uh, I wasn't opposed to seeing Leia as a child. It was just some of the ridiculous parts where she does that with the mechanics and somehow avoids the arms of grown ass men who are tripping and trying to stumble their way out of her reach because they have to for the show. It's just was hilarious to watch. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Obi-Wan Kenobi, not a great show.
I like the Leia character from the original trilogy, and then after that, I don't know how I feel about it, but um, anyway, let's move on to
Andor.
Andor, which I have no knowledge about this at all, other than Andor is the guy from a guy from Rogue One, apparently.
Yeah, so this is a hot take. Really did not like Andor. It's 12 episodes. Uh,
A lot of people like it. I've
yes,
heard.
a lot of people love it. I didn't like it for a multitude of reasons. And the first is that it didn't, and I loved Cassian Andor, and I wanted to see more of him. So I was actually super hyped for the show when no one else was. It's kind of funny how this worked. I was the only person that was hyped for the show. Everyone was like, the show's gonna be trash. And I was like, you guys are all stupid and wrong. The show's gonna be amazing. It comes out. I'm like, wow, I fucking hate the show. And everyone's like, this show's amazing. I can't believe I wasn't hyped for it. And I'm like, what? I was hyped for it, and this show sucks. um, so it's really slow. It's really boring. There's not many aliens in it. It's a Star Wars show. There's not many androids or robots in it. It's a Star Wars show. It doesn't really feel like Star Wars. It's a fucking Star Wars show. I appreciate the more mature, gritty vibe to it, but it doesn't really work when you don't care about half the characters and they're boring as fuck. I mean, seriously, it follows like how many characters does it follow? 5. So you have Cassian Andor. His parts are they're pretty interesting for the most part. And you have Mon Mothma. You know her, right?
Um.
The original trilogy. She's the one with the short, like orange hair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Her
Why?
story
Why is she in it?
was because she's like a big like beginner of the rebels.
Oh
So
yeah.
like
Is General the fucking alien with the brown calamari?
Admiral Akbar.
What's
I
his name?
wish he was in it. No. But that'd be awesome if Akbar was in it. Like I said, there's like no aliens in the
He looks
show.
like a turd or something.
I love him. Um,
He needs his own show, right?
that'd be great.
Let's
It could
see
be called It's a
Admiral
Trap.
Let's see Admiral Akbar when he was a baby.
Yes.
Like, fucking hell.
So you have Mon Mothma. Hers is maybe what was my favorite part of the story. I think it's very political, and she doesn't get much screen time, and there's not much there. But from the small amount that I saw, I was like, I want to see more of her. Then it follows 3 other characters that I don't remember the name of. And the first one is like an Imperial officer who's in charge of I don't really know, but she's in charge of something. She's in like this bureau of like investigating stuff, and she's gotta be one of the most boring people I've ever watched. And then another Imperial agent dude who is also one of the most boring people I've ever watched, and he's like obsessed with catching Andor, and he eats cereal, and that's really all I know about him. He's beyond boring. And then you have like this other guy who I really liked, but you don't really see him that much, and he has like this antique store, and he's kind of like this front for appearing like he is this different person, but he's also involved with like the formation of the rebellion. But 9 out of the 12 episodes, I feel like nothing happens, and it's a 45-minute long talking fest. Now, I'm
Mm.
not someone that needs action constantly, but when you're constantly talking about shit I don't care about, then yes, I need more action. There's a lot of politics, a lot of discussion about stuff like forming the alliance or investigating this, and most of it seems like mumbo jumbo that's
Kind
just
of,
there.
kind of like the prequels.
No, because the prequels were interesting. So take the interesting part out of the prequels, take the action out of the prequels, and that's what this is. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I am still excited for season 2. I know that's weird, but I kind of think season 2 might pick up and be pretty good. But this show felt like a 12 episode series that should have been like 6 episodes. Like it just felt like they dragged it out. And so, that was annoying. But, on the other side of things, this is the first time in Star Wars history that people like swore in the show. So they've made progress. Now let's
Mm.
get it a little bit more mature. Yeah, someone, I think in one of the early episodes, someone yells shit. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they swear a couple times in that show, but I was super, super excited about that because while I don't think shit changes a show all that much in general, it did give me the confidence that like, ooh, Disney Plus might be ramping some stuff up here for some more like adult shows. Maybe. I mean, with the announcement that the Marvel Netflix shows are going to come onto this app, plus the fact that they like put shit in a Star Wars show, like I'm really getting to like, that optimistic feeling that maybe one day we'll get like a mature rated Star Wars show. We'll see. But
Well,
anyway, that's my Andor review.
all right. Well, I probably need to watch it then
Because I hate it so much.
because you hated it so much. So it's probably
I
something I like.
You probably would. I just thought it was so slow and boring, and I was like engaged and interested in maybe 20% of the show, and the rest I was like bored and like, let's go, let's do something. But like you said, a lot of people love that show, and so I would definitely say you should give it a shot because you might actually like it. It wasn't really for me,
Mm.
but whatever.
All right.
So
Well, the speaking it wasn't for you, let's talk about the animated shows very quickly because I know a lot of people love those shows.
yeah.
I've never had much interest in them because I think it mostly the one that I know of, I guess what's it called, Star Wars Rebels or something.
Yeah.
Uh, is that the one where it's like Asuka and
Ahsoka.
yeah, and Obi-Wan and
No, that's the Clone Wars.
oh, okay. Maybe people like that one. I don't know. Anyway, I don't
People
know.
like both, but the Clone Wars is like it's when Obi-Wan and Anakin are like still friendly and good, and
Yeah.
Anakin's apprentice is Ahsoka, and it's kind of Ahsoka's story, about being like trained under Darth Vader basically, and then eventually, I'm gonna spoil these shows for anyone listening because you don't care, I'm sure, and
No, I don't care at all.
I don't. Yeah, they're really old. So Ahsoka is being trained, and it's actually a really interesting story because she gets charged by the Jedi Council, um, I can't remember what it was. I watched the show like a couple years ago because everyone said it was so good. I think it's trash, but uh it's a show for kids. It's not for me. I forced myself to watch it all because of all these new shows coming out. But anyway, the Jedi Council, she does something for the good of something. I can't remember what it was, but she went against the Jedi Council orders and saved people or something, and they charged her with disobeying. I think I might have this wrong. I'm guessing here, but anyway, she was incorrectly like in trouble. Like should not have been. You're totally on her side. And instead of staying and suffering the punishment, she basically says, "Fuck you guys. I don't want to be a Jedi anymore if that's what's going to happen." And she leaves the Jedi Council and just leaves. And then I think that's like towards the end of the show. But then there's like another season where she's kind of like this outcast, and Order 66 happens. And all this shit happens. And anyway, that's why she is like alive, just because she wasn't really there for the Order 66 stuff. But maybe the only part about the show that was actually super interesting to me, and you will probably think this is awful. So I'm curious to hear what you say. You know the Anakin storyline with Padme and how he falls in love and how that's like forbidden, and then it's a secret and all that. Obi-Wan has a lover in this show.
Oh.
And she ends up dying. It's actually it's like the best episode of the show is when she dies. And so it kind of makes you wonder like if that's why maybe he did know about Padme and Anakin's relationship and was like, not, I don't know. So it does make you kind of like wonder about that kind of stuff. But overall, I can't stand the show. It's for kids. And that moves on into the next animated show, which is Star Wars Rebels, which is like a standalone show, but also sort of a sequel to the Clone Wars. So it's set in the time of the original trilogy, which actually made me kind of excited to see it. Because Clone Wars, even though I really liked the prequel trilogy a lot, I had no interest in the show. I had no interest in seeing more of the clones. I had no interest in seeing more of the Jedi Council. I feel like we got a lot of that already. This is more of the same, and it's boring and it's for kids. Rebels, at least to me, had an interesting premise. It was like this crew on a ship flying around doing stuff, and the main character has a Jedi apprentice to some other Jedi who I believe survived the Clone Wars. I can't remember. It's been a while since I saw the first couple episodes. I haven't finished the show yet, and I'm struggling to do so. I just play it in the background when I'm doing something else because I can't sit down and watch it because it's actually made for a younger audience than the Clone Wars, so it's even more boring. But Ahsoka's in that show a little bit, and so I guess that's interesting. But I mean, this is literally made for like, I think it's rated TV Y7. So it's like so young and really cringy because there's a lot of, child humor. But again, I'm trying to force my way through it because the Ahsoka TV show comes out this year, and I figure some stuff from here is going to show up in it. This is a show that actually introduced Thrawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so well, I actually think Thrawn came first in the book, but I might be wrong. But anyway, he was actually in the show, which is interesting because according to articles I've read, Thrawn is going to be making a live action appearance. So, and then there's a third animated show called The Bad Batch, which I haven't seen. I do know it's about a group of clone troopers that's set in I think during the original trilogy times. I don't really know, but I mean, I don't know. The animated shows were never for me though. I didn't watch them as a kid. I had no interest as a kid to watch them. As an adult, I had even less interest, but decided to watch them because of the Star Wars shows. And honestly, I could have not watched them and been fine.
I've not watched them and I'm fine. So
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend them. I'm
good for
shocked at
me.
how many adults like them as much as they do when they're so clearly like for kids. And like that might sound like an insult, but I feel like with like Harry Potter's for kids, but I feel like you can get a lot of like stuff out of it as an adult.
Hmm.
These shows, I really haven't seen anything that like I can get out of it, really. Maybe I'm just not getting it. I don't know, but they feel like so childish to the point of like it's a show you'd put on for your like 7-year-old like niece. You know what I mean? Like it's not a show that you'd like sit down and be like, let's watch this. But it's maybe it's just not for me, and that's okay.
Well, let's wrap up the main topic here. Let's talk about games. Of the Star Wars games, I've played a lot of them. I've owned a lot of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them that I have played. I'm just going to talk about the ones that I've liked.
Okay.
The Super Nintendo may have been before your time. I don't know.
The first system I ever owned was a PlayStation 1.
Okay.
I've played Super Nintendo, but I don't call any Star Wars games playing on that, and not really. I hardly touched it, so it
Well,
probably is before my time. Although a lot of those games, I think they came out on other systems later on, maybe. Like
yeah,
PlayStation.
there were some good kind of like action, side-scrolling action Star Wars games that came out for the Super Nintendo that I really liked. They're just simple, like you were Luke Skywalker and you had a lightsaber and you run through the mission and kill shit. That's basically it.
Right.
And then there was a Nintendo 64 game that I think a lot of people always talk about, like, oh, I wish they do a live action version of that. And I think it's called Shadows of the Empire or something like that. And it involves like a character that's never appeared in any of the movies or anything.
It's like Kyle Katarn.
Could be. I'm sure he's appeared in something since then.
It's a first-person shooter, right?
I don't know if it's a first-person shooter. I think it's a third-person shooter.
Oh, okay.
But that game was pretty good.
Yep, you're right. It's third person.
And then I played
Oh, it's Dash Rendar. It's not Kyle
oh,
Katarn.
Dash Rendar. Yeah, that's right.
I've heard that name before, though.
And then there's the Knights of the Old Republic games. I've played the first one, and that's one of the first games that introduced, I think, BioWare's morality system, where which I always thought is really cool. Like you could, whichever decisions you make, you would be light side of the force or dark side of the force. So I thought that was a cool mechanic. And the story would develop differently depending on what choices you made. So that's one of my favorite BioWare kind of introductions to the almost a fantasy genre, the game genre. I don't know if it was unique to BioWare, but I think they probably made it the most famous with the Mass Effect games and Dragon Age and Knights of the Old Republic. So yeah, I really liked those games. And then I guess there's always games in development. I played for The Force Awakens some, which was kind of a cool game. That's like another Darth Vader apprentice game. You're Darth Vader's apprentice and you are just like going to rebel bases and fucking shit up, and you can throw TIE fighters around with your force powers. It's like a cool, like, just action game.
Right. Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that really like the Star Wars MMO game, but
Oh, yes, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I actually played the shit out of the game.
I played it a little bit, but I think I never had a good computer to run it.
Ah,
Um, but I liked what I played of it, and I think it's of course, uh, brilliant idea to have that kind of game. I mean, obviously,
that
um,
game is really quite boring if you play it single player, though. I feel like I played it with my brother, and so we could actually do a lot of the other activities. But when you're by yourself, at least when I played it, you couldn't really do a lot of the other stuff. I think they've since changed that, but
hmm. Is it still going?
yeah, it's still going. They're still
Uh,
releasing expansions for it and shit.
yeah, I think that's a good idea to have something like that for Star Wars fans to just jump into, develop their
Yeah,
character, and they can be whatever they want, basically.
yeah. I always wish that they would announce a sequel, but so far they have not. Have you played? What about what's that game called? Is it Jedi Survivor? That new game, like the yeah, Jedi Survivor. Um,
I haven't played
or
any.
no, Jedi Fallen Order is the first one. Jedi Survivor is the second one.
I haven't.
Uh,
I haven't played any new ones. I've played mostly older Star Wars stuff.
okay, so there's one that came out a couple years ago called Jedi Fallen Order. It's kind of like a Dark Souls type combat. I scaled the difficulty really down because I don't want to deal with that shit, honestly. I just wanted to see the story. I think I played on normal for like half the game, and I got to a boss and I was like, okay, fuck this. I'm going down to easy mode. I just want to see the story. Um, I used to be like sadistic and play games on the hardest difficulty and like try and get all the achievements and shit like that. But in my old age, I don't care anymore. I just don't have the time to want to mess around with that. I want to just see the story, you know? So that's actually a pretty interesting story. I think you'd like that game. What's another game? So you said mostly older games you played?
Yeah, I can't think of many. Oh, wait. I did play the what's the game where it's like you can fight each other like in a big battlefield or battleground
Oh,
or something.
Battlefront.
Battlefront. Yeah, I like that
Battlefront
game.
was okay. Um,
I like that one playing online, like playing single player,
yeah.
not so much, but the online stuff
Yeah,
was pretty fun.
I played all the Battlefronts. They were never my thing. But they're okay. I can see why people would like them. They just weren't like my type of game. I'm trying to think of like some of the games that I did play a lot of, and there was this one multiplayer one way back in the day. I think it was called Jedi Academy. Though that might be a single player game. I can't remember it. There were so many Star Wars games back then, but there was this one online one, or at least that single player and online, I think, and you had like all these cool different maps. And all I remember was there was this one map called Nar Shaddaa Streets, I think it was called, and that was really cool. Um, I think it was Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. But anyway, played that one a decent amount. Did you ever play the RTS game? It's like Age of Empires, but with Star Wars.
No, but that sounds like something I would like.
That was awesome. I can't remember what it was called, but it had like 8 factions. I think it came out right around when the Phantom Menace came out in theaters, because I remember there was like 6 or 8 factions, and you could like play I think the Gungans were a faction.
Stupid.
Um and
Stupid.
then you had the Galactic Empire, the Rebel Alliance, then you had the clones, and then you had the I can't remember what they're called, but basically like in episode 1, you know how like how the queen has her like faction, the like royal like guards and stuff, and the cool tanks. That was a faction. Anyway, it's a really cool game.
Republic at
And,
War, is that what it's called?
I don't.
There's a game called at War that says it's RTS.
It. I think the one I'm talking about is Galactic Battlegrounds.
Oh, okay, that's another one. Yeah.
And then Empire at War was like an evolution on Galactic Battlegrounds. It like had space and ground stuff. Empire at War was cool, but I never really played it that much. But my favorite game of all time, that's a Star Wars game, might be one that people have never like heard of, because even at the time that I played it, no one had heard of it.
Hmm.
And it was called Star Wars Rebellion.
Well, there's a board game called that.
Yes, this is a video game. It was released in 1998. Terrible graphics.
Is it the same as the board game or completely different?
I actually have the Star Wars Rebellion board game.
Oh,
And
okay.
it is my belief that the board game is directly inspired by this video game.
I see. Okay.
Looks very similar. This game was amazing because you played good versus evil. You could play this 2-player, and it was fantastic. So you start out with your like 2 or 3 planets, and then you start out with like 5 or 6 like named heroes. So like if you're playing good guys, it would be like Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca, and I think Mon Mothma. I think.
Oh my.
Well, there was like 40 characters. So you started out with like the main Alliance people and the main Empire people. And
Yeah.
then you could like go on recruitment missions and get more officers. And it was really cool because then you get all these named people that you recognized and stuff. And so when you're the rebellion, or the rebels rather, your objective is to, I think it's to destroy the Empire's headquarters. I can't remember. The Empire was OP in this game, though. It's really annoying. Their objective was to find the rebel headquarters, which is hidden to them, and it's on like a random planet, and they don't know where it is.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. So you can like capture or assassinate the enemy's leaders and stuff. And it was really cool. But the rebels could only capture. They weren't allowed to assassinate. So like, yeah, it was really annoying. But it was really cool because every game was kind of random. So different officers could randomly develop like force potential and become like Jedi and stuff.
Mm.
It was just a really fun game. It was a very stupendously long video game though, because it was like, a big galaxy, and you would go around the map building up each planet. So you'd have like a fleet, and then you could have like ground troops and stuff. And it was kind of like Total War, where like you could, how you go. Have you played Total War? Or do you know what it's like?
I know you got shitloads of units and they just like kill each other.
Yeah, so like you have like the world map, and then you can like build and recruit units and stuff on the map, and then you can move your armies around, and then when they like join up against an enemy army, you can either go into the game and play the battle, or you can just simulate the results.
Okay.
Star Wars Rebellion has the same mechanic. So you could like go into the space battle, and it had the most wonky controls. It was really hard to like actually control, but it was kind of like an RTS with terrible controls. It was so slow. I think that was the problem. And your ships start so far away from each other that it just took so long to like get the battle going. It was really annoying. But other than that, it was like an amazing game.
I've always wanted the Star Wars Rebellion board game, because a lot of people say it's like really good 2-player game. But I don't have that one. I have one called Outer Rim, which I really like.
Oh, I have that one too, actually.
Yeah, I like that one because it lets you choose a bounty hunter or whatever, and you can do different missions and different you can go to different planets and find bounties, and you could either capture the person or kill them. And you get credits for doing different things. You can smuggle, you can do stuff with the black market, you can fight other factions. So as a Star Wars experience that's not Jedi centric, I think it's like a really cool game if you're like into the bounty hunter underworld kind of stuff. And you can play
Yeah.
like Han Solo or Boba Fett or um, some of the more minor bounty hunters, like what's the fucking guy's name? Delgar or Delgar.
Dengar. Yeah, Dengar.
Dengar. You can play
Yeah.
people like that.
Yeah, I remember that game. I think I've only played it once. I thought it was okay. Star Wars Rebellion, the board game, I probably would like it more if I had like someone that was also a strategist to play it with, but like my brother is not the most strategic player in games when it's like a competitive thing.
Mm.
And like it's also kind of a really long game. And like I think he taps out before I do with like the boredom factor. So um I haven't actually played it against anyone that was like super interested in it.
Mm.
So maybe I'd like it more. If you were like my neighbor and you were like, I've never played it, then I would just be like, here, you can have this game because I don't care about it. Of course, if you were my neighbor, I guess we'd be able to play it. But, um, if you lived anywhere close, maybe I'd mail it to you if you wanted it. But I mean, shipping it across the world, it's
Mm.
probably more expensive to do that than to just buy a copy.
Yeah.
Because shipping internationally is ridiculous. I
Oh,
can't.
I know very well.
So
Well,
yeah, it's an okay game.
let's wrap up with our idea for a Star Wars show. And I think maybe it's easier if I just tell you what my idea is, and then we can like see how we could develop that more, just bounce ideas off each other, and then you tell me what your idea is. And then
Okay,
so
I think that sounds good.
here you're gonna hate this probably.
Dear
uh
God, I can feel it. I felt that as soon as you started to talk. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna hate this shit, aren't I?
just hear me out.
Okay.
So while we were doing this episode, I kept thinking about, we keep talking about all these like characters, and like I want to see this character as a baby and this character as a baby, or like Admiral Akbar as a baby, like stupid shit like that. And what I was thinking is like, what is one of the like most random characters in the Star Wars universe
Oh God.
that you could do a show off of? And it's not necessarily a character, but it's the Rancor from underneath Jabba's lair, right?
Yep.
Now I'm not saying do a Rancor show, but I'm thinking like, if because I know you're not into the anthology thing, but I think if you did like an anthology and you have all these different characters, right? And like basically it all leads to the Rancor. So like whatever they do in the episode, they eventually get captured and they end up having to fight the Rancor at the end of the episode. So like each episode, the character's either going to get eaten by the Rancor or somehow they're going to escape. And like the whole
Oh,
episode
okay.
just builds up to like, all right, the Rancor is coming. So
So it
like,
could literally be Philip Overby's the Rancor.
yeah. So each episode, you're introduced to a character, and there's some kind of criminal guy or there's some kind of person, and one way or another they end up in Jabba's palace and they end up thrown to be fed
Right.
fed to the Rancor. And
I
you could do some shit with the guy that looks like an orc or a pig or whatever. the pig man.
Yeah, the Gamorreans.
Yeah, you could do some shit where like he's training the Rancor, or like you could do some shit where he has a relationship with it or something. Uh, just to build up, uh, you know, uh, that part of the story. But basically, the idea would be like you'd either have some really shitty asshole character, and like almost like a Tales from the Crypt type thing. I don't know if you ever watched Tales from the Crypt, but
I have not.
it was an anthology horror series like in the 80s and 90s, and it was kind of campy. And that's the direction I want to go with my show. Is it's like kind of campy Star Wars, not necessarily like serious,
Right.
dramatic Star Wars. It's kind of like you have like these characters and they're kind of weird and some of them are quirky, and they get thrown in there with the Rancor. And like maybe sometimes two characters get thrown in with the Rancor, and then they're like, no, eat him, and like push him, something like that. That goes in kind of that direction with Star Wars. That's not. It's kind of a darker tone, but also has some silliness to it also. So almost like a dark comedy Star Wars.
Okay, I don't hate the idea. I'm serious. I think that it could be so cool because what is the one thing that I wanted to see more in the original trilogy? Literally what you said. More
Jabba.
bounty hunter stuff, more Jabba stuff. I loved that whole idea. I loved that like, oh, you're not like someone I like or someone that's actually benefiting me. I'll just push this button and you fall into the Rancor. Good luck.
Yeah.
And you don't really see shit about that. And I would have loved to see exactly what you're describing. How cool would that be? Jabba's Palace, the show.
Even
basically like every episode he's killing someone with a Rancor.
Well, like the thing is, I wouldn't want Jabba to be like the center of the show. I would want him to be like he's there, and like maybe even in the trailer of the show would be like you have all these different characters and they're all standing in front of Jabba, and they all got like smirks on their faces or like trying to look cool or something, and then like the trailer's just Jabba pushing the button,
right?
Like everyone dropping into the pit.
That would be the trailer too. Just like you just see him keep hitting the button,
Yeah.
like faces of like shocked faces appearing on them as they fell. Feel like, who's going to get away?
Yeah, that would
going to die.
That would be the show. Like each episode, like does the character get out like Luke did? Like somehow Luke had to kill the Rancor to get out, but
right.
Some character gets out, and then. But I'm just thinking like basically every episode, the main character gets killed because he's like a piece of shit or whatever. And that's how Tales from the Crypt was. It was like every episode the character was a piece of shit, and somehow or another karma caught up to him, and like whatever they were trying to do to other people would come back and bite them. And then like for example, a character, I'm not sure this is a real Tales from the Crypt episode, but like for example, a character is trying to scam people. Oh no, here's one. There was one where there's two twin brothers, but they're like what's it called? Siamese twins. They're conjoined twins. Sorry, I'm gonna edit that part out. They're conjoined twins. So they're attached at the hip, and then one brother's like a fucking asshole, and one of them wants to be separated from the other one. So anyway, the one brother kills his brother's girlfriend, and he's like, haha, now you have to be executed like me or something, right? But the whole episode is about like they're going to get a surgery to get separated, and like, haha, you'll never do it, you're too much of a bitch or something. But anyway, the good brother has the surgery while the other brother's unconscious, and they get separated. So the brother that killed the girlfriend goes to prison. So that's the twist at the end of the episode. Like, you thought you were going to do something bad and get away with it and kill your brother also, but haha, I did the surgery, so fuck you. So like anyway, a Star Wars show that's like fuck you. Like every episode's like fuck you, Rancor kills you. That's my
Right.
that's my pitch.
Alright. That's not a bad pitch. It's not one I'd pick because of the anthology format.
Yeah.
But for an anthology formatted show, that could be one that I would actually watch and probably not hate. Although with Disney running things, I probably would hate it. But
It could be
all right.
it could even be an animated show with like
No, why would you even bring that up?
well, I'm just saying it could be an animated show with a
It's
like a darker theme to it or
I,
something.
I think live action or bust is how I feel on these shows.
Okay, live action.
I mean, you could make it animated. I don't care. But I just went from like pretty interested to completely not interested.
So your show's about pod racing?
That'd be funny.
Oh, the great pod racers. We get to see Flingo Dorbat and Slingo Bedijo
You know what?
and
I
Dijo Bajiji.
people do hate on the pod racing, but I would actually not be upset to learn more about it. It seems like they barely touched on a lot of like the lore and stuff there, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to see different types of races and stuff. But no, my show is not a pod racing show. So my pitch would be a mature rated Star Wars show that is meant for like HBO. And it would probably not have very well, there's kind of two different directions I'm looking at. Like I would like either one of these shows, honestly. The first would be like a very gritty, like Underdark type show. Kind of what I thought like The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett might have been, but neither of them were like that. But it like dealt with a lot of like the bounty hunters and like guns and not so much with like the Force and Jedi and stuff. And I don't know. It would be really cool to see a lot of the criminal underworld in a more mature way, I think. So, The Sopranos, but Star Wars. So that's like one way of going. But I also, ever since I was a kid, I read these Star Wars books. Never been a big fan of the Star Wars books. I've read a couple here and there, but there was this one young adult series that I think it was this is going to set you off, but I think it was like Han Solo and Leia had kids, and Luke and this character named Mara Jade had kids.
I've heard of these, yeah.
And the series was like about the kids, and it was like the one kid, I can't remember if it was all of them or just one. Anyway, one of them was like a Jedi, I think. It was the son of Luke and Mara Jade, I think, was a Jedi. And he went to like the Jedi Academy. And I always thought it would be really cool to have like a TV show that was like about a kid that like goes to the Jedi Academy, maybe is ripped away from his family or their parents were killed or whatever, and then it's like a show about the academy, so like but like mature, like.
And there's 4 factions in the academy.
Why 4 factions?
There's the
Oh, you mean like Hogwarts?
there's
No,
the
I don't mean like that.
There's the Huggle Poo and the Slippy Slow.
So yeah, it could be kind of like Harry Potter in that sense, but I think it'd be cooler if the characters were a bit more aged up. Maybe season 1 is like the younger stuff, but then they kind of get into the more teenage to young adult stuff later. But I think it'd be really cool because in almost every Star Wars game I've ever played, if you ever go to a Jedi Academy, there's always like these inexperienced people. So some of them are tempted by the dark side, and some of them are just cocky, arrogant, like douchebags. And so you have all this like stuff that could happen in this show. I feel like it's just be kind of interesting to learn more about like the Jedi training, do some like of the Jedi missions and stuff. They kind of did this in the Clone Wars animated show, but it was for kids and boring. And also with characters that were already established. I think if we were to do this show, it would have to be like, I don't know, 100 years before the prequel trilogy, maybe, or 200, 300. I don't know. Maybe farther back than Yoda even existed. So he was almost 900. So like maybe like 1,000 years ago, so that there's no connection.
Can you do like a Jedi Academy mature show though? Or you're just thinking Jedi
Yeah,
Academy?
I don't see why not. Why not? I mean, maybe the first season is not like, I don't know how much you can get in with like, too many younglings, but like maybe the first episode is like here's a youngling, and then they kind of do the House of the Dragons thing where they kind of speed through some of the stuff and then get to like the good stuff.
Youngling. I hate that phrase, youngling.
Youngling?
Just
Why?
say children. I don't know why he killed the younglings. They can't say he killed the children in a Star Wars movie.
Well, youngling, they do say he killed the children. Remember when he kills the Tusken Raiders and he's like, I killed them. Not just the men, but the women and the children too. Youngling is actually a Jedi ranking, which is why they say that.
I didn't read the book, so I don't know.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know where I
I
know
didn't
it.
read the Wikipedia about.
Yeah, to be fair, I used to read so much. I know a lot of Star Wars crap, as I think you've probably figured out during this podcast.
Yes.
um, but I used to be obsessed. I read Wikipedia a lot. I read some of the books. I think a lot of my knowledge though came from buying the Star Wars action figures because I learned a lot about what these random characters' names and races are from those.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of those when I was a kid. I remember specifically I had Admiral Akbar. So I was a big Admiral Akbar fan even back then, even as a
Dude,
kid.
in The Mandalorian where they show the what's that race called? Mon Calamari, I think.
Yeah.
That world with them. That would be actually kind of an interesting show. I'm not gonna lie.
No.
No, Mon Calamari is the planet. Oh, the species is called what? Mon.
Isn't it kind of
Okay.
isn't it kind of dumb that it's Mon Calamari like fried or like squid, Italian squid?
Yeah, I don't know. I always wondered why that name as well. I mean they are squid, but like typically a species name is like
Not the food
the
name.
species name themselves, right? Like you're not if you met an alien race, you're not calling them squid people once you talk to them, right? And they say, "Hey, we are the, whatever people." You're not still calling them squid people, right?
Well,
Um,
we did have that problem in our own history, but we won't get into that.
well, I think that now we're a lot more intelligent and respectful, though.
Yeah. Well, I think those are our shows. As far as the mature show, um, I would be less interested in another bounty hunter show and more interested in like a criminal overlord kind of show, like a Sopranos, like you said, like maybe
Like
like a
Coruscant, like underground, like criminal family crime show.
yeah, that would be cool. Like a guy that's like the head of a crime family in Coruscant and all his
And they could have like a bounty hunter too that they like employ or whatever. Like it doesn't have to just be about bounty hunters, but I think if you're going to go into an underdark setting, like crime boss setting or something,
yeah.
there's going to be bounty hunters. of somewhere, right?
Yeah, I
You know,
think
if you
that
take a hit out on like a rival crime boss or something.
I don't think there's any sci-fi crime shows, are there? Like that.
I'll be honest, Phil. I can't answer that because I really don't watch many sci-fi shows, unfortunately. I want to. I want there to be good sci-fi shows, but I feel like most of them are not great, and I wish there was more. Um,
Well, that's another episode.
yeah, true. Even a lot of the good ones that people cite, I'm like not. I didn't like them, or I just am not interested in them. Uh, or they're just like way too campy. It's like all the good like sci-fi shows with like good budgets are like so boring. Now I'm generalizing. There are some good ones out there, but like for the most part, it's like it almost seems like there's a struggle for like good sci-fi. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, that's a story for another day. I think
Fair.
we'll wrap up today's episode, and I think we've exhausted every Star Wars thing we could possibly talk about for a while anyway. I mean, we could always delve further into specific characters or why there should be a Mon Calamari show or whatever the case may be.
Those should
Uh,
they that would be amazing.
but if Disney Plus suddenly does my Rancor show, I'm gonna be pissed off. Give me credit, fuckers. Give me money. All right. So until next time, please go check out the Trials of Ashmount, John's book, and go to negative-hp.com for Philip related content. And you can go to Grimdark Fiction Readers and Writers. It's not necessarily related to Star Wars, but we talk about lots of dark stuff there if you're interested in the darker side of fiction. Till next time, thank you for listening, and may the 5th of Vodka be with you. The end.